So in this tutorial, we're going to look at Peacock Swirls again. It's another Peacock Swirl tutorial, but this time we're going to use a divider in a mold. And this is going to allow us to separate the colours a little bit more. So we're going to have some more colour separation. And the Peacock Swirl itself is going to pretty much be any accent colours that you run through each of these areas. Now, I'm using my slow trace batter here. It does contain lard, and if you don't wish to use animal products in your soap, you'll need to find a batter that is a slow tracing batter. This is a little bit more forgiving because you don't need to lay it down quite so linearly in lots of striations. You're going to pour a bit of this as well as using the squeeze bottles to put in your kind of accent colours. So we're just going to bring this one up to an emulsion. I'm just checking the end of the bell of the stick blender there just to make sure that it is at a full emulsion. I'm going to give it a little bit more just to make sure that we are fully emulsified before we move on to the next bit. Now, in the top left-hand corner there, you'll see a couple of squeeze bottles, and I had a coral and a pink, testing out some new colours again, and pretty much they echoed one another. So if you're going to do this and you're going to have a couple of colours, make sure that they are particularly different rather than quite so close. So you'll get a bit of difference in colour there. So a couple of squeeze bottles for doing some additional kind of striation through it. And then the three main colours I'm going to go with is a purple, a gold colour, and I used a gold mica that does have a little bit of sparkle to it. So in the final soap, the kind of deep gold colour in the centre of this is going to have a little bit of sparkle through it, which makes a little bit of difference in the soap, I think. And the final colour is going to be kind of a deep green, almost emerald colour. So it's kind of quite a jewelly coloured soap with these very, very bright, almost neon pinks in it. So once we've brought our batter up to trace here, and we're at an appropriate trace now, so that will be fine. And this is workable for quite some time. So if you did want to set this up a little bit and have a little bit of a thicker batter to work with and draw a thicker stick through, you're going to have to let this one set up a little bit. But I kind of like working with quite a thin trace and just allowing things to naturally come to trace. So what we'll do is we'll pour off our two accent colours here. So you can see this one is quite a bright pink colour. And we're just going to fill this one up. Anything left over will go into a separate mould if I need to. That's that one there. Let's wipe anything I've spilt. And pop the lid onto this one. And then this one is a kind of corally colour, but after saponification, they were pretty similar. So I could have just gone with one here, but we like to make things a little bit more difficult. And we'll pop the lid onto this one as well. Get that screwed on there. Now, one thing, you want to squeeze the bottle before you start shaking with your finger over the top. So when you remove your finger, the suction pulls anything back in. You can see that's kind of an orangey pink there, but it's very, very close to the other one. Give that a good shake, and then again, we'll pop the pink there. So you can see they're very similar colours. We should have gone with something different here. Now, the rest of the batter, we need to actually divide this between 3 jugs. So I'm going to bring my scales here, and little tip that again I saw the lovely I Dream in Soap do is all of my jugs, any jug that I make any batter in, I actually have the weight engraved on the handle or somewhere on it. So you can see that says 121.1. The jug itself is 121.1 grams. So I'll weigh the entire batter. I'll take off the weight of that jug, which I know what it's going to be because it's there right in front of me. And then I can divide the rest of that amount into 3, and that gives me the amount I need to pour off, which means I can just use 2 additional jugs rather than 3 and try and eyeball it. Because we've got quite a long working time on this, that's fine. But I always have my calculator to hand. And I do find that it's quite nice to be able to just take that off, divide things up, and you're going to get a rough division of all of that batter. And sometimes you do have to work this maths out on the fly. So I prefer to do it like that. Now, the one thing, if you want to prevent air bubbles in your batter, what you want to try and do is pour from the spout to the spout, and just actually kind of dribble down, and that will take out a lot of the bubbles that may already be in there, and it'll also make sure that you've got no bubbles being reincorporated into that batter. So here we go with our purple colour, and as you can see, as that's gone in, it's kind of really kind of dulled down a little bit and become quite a dull purple. So I've added a little bit of my additional pink in there. Now I always mix my micas into some oil and let them kind of settle out. That's the gold in the middle one there, and you can see how that's kind of a nice kind of orangey gold. And then we're going to put our kind of emeraldy green into this side. Okay, but you can do any colours that you wish. You can swap these around. You could have a white in there. You can really just do as you wish with this one. A little bit more gold in there, just make it a little bit deeper. And then we're pretty much ready to get on with the pour then. So I've got my mould here with my dividers in it. And as you can see, I'm actually just putting a little pressure down onto the top of the mould to hold those down whilst I get some batter into each one. Once I've got some batter at the bottom, the pressure of each of those will prevent them kind of pouring out underneath. So it's really worthwhile, if you're going to do this technique, just pop some in the bottom. And then what we're going to do is just add a little bit more of this colour. Now, I didn't add enough of this, and I could have done with a lot more going through the bottom of the soap, but I kind of like the softness of it underneath. Now what I'm trying to do here is just pour my additional batter down the same side. So I'm kind of making lines within lines here. However, I did pour it all over the place, and it probably would have been better to have these in, there we go, in squeeze bottles as well. But essentially what we're doing is in each of these sections, we're trying to keep the colours separated as much as we can, probably better than I have here. And then what you're going to try and want to do is just add that additional colour in, so you're getting that beautiful kind of striations, but in 3 sections. So you'll have 3 definitive colour sections, and then your Peacock Swirl will kind of move through them, as well as dragging these accent colours through with it. So it's going to give you a very, very different look to a normal Peacock Swirl. And I'm one of, it's one of those is, do you use dividers or do you not use dividers? It's a personal preference thing. Yes, they do require a little bit of cleaning if you wanted to save the soap that's on them. And yes, once you take them out, you then have to refill a little bit of the mould. They are a bit of a faff, but sometimes they are unfortunately a necessary evil. Do you need it for this technique? Well, I am going to have another technique which does a non-divider divider swirl, and it'll show you how to kind of get a similar look and feel to this with a lot more striations able to run through it. So we're taking the dividers out there, and look at the amount of soap on them. It's a bit of a waste, really. But I will take you through how to do this kind of technique without using the dividers. I'm going to get as much of this soap in here as I possibly can do, and then what we'll do is we'll come back ready for doing the Peacock Swirl. So now we've got this ready, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do what we'd normally do with a Peacock Swirl, and that's I'm going to draw a bamboo skewer through it in one direction. So I'm always starting at the top and I'm drawing it down towards me. So we're going to come out here, wipe off, and I'm going to go from each side so that I'm essentially pulling the soap all together rather than continually pulling one side. I'm just allowing everything to settle a little bit more. So we're going to go through and do all of this, and what I'll do is I'll just speed it up a little bit until we're ready to be doing the S-curves. So now we've got all of those lines going in the same direction. I quite like that pattern, and you can leave it there. But now we're going in with our Peacock Swirl, and again, I'll overlay on the screen just now the S shape that you're trying to make with your stick, whatever you're using, glass rod, bamboo skewer, whatever it might be. End of a spoon even works on this one. You want to go in opposite directions and then pulling them all around so you're getting this kind of feathery pattern appear within the soap. So this is the sort of motion that you'll be looking for, and this is how you want it to look. So you can see here, just on the right hand side of the screen, this is the S motion that you're looking for when you go down your mould. And then once you've completed that one, you're going to go back up to the top again, and you're going to go in the opposite direction. So you're making opposite kind of cells, honeycomb structure, things like that. It doesn't have to be 2, it can be 3, 4, 5 amplitudes in your design. You can do as many as you want. As you can see in the video, I'm doing about 5 or 6. They don't have to be this kind of elongated shape. They can be shallower or they can be wider, but that's the sort of motion you're looking for to get this shape of a peacock swirl going. So that is the peacock swirl there, and we're just going to do one last one here. And as you can see, it's just dragging all of that soap around. Now, I could probably have done with this soap being a lot thicker in trace, really, so it would have pulled things around. But do you know what? We're going to leave it as it goes and see what we get at the end of it. So join me in a second for the cut. So here we are back with the cut. Now, what I find with these soaps is quite often you will find the soap's quite soft and you need to leave them a little while before taking them out the mold, but I had to get this one out kind of quick. So you'll see around the edges, it's not quite so neat and tidy, and it's a little bit kind of sticky still. You want to leave these to dry for a good few days. This was 24 hours old, so it's saponified, but I probably could have done with leaving it another 24 hours. But just see the release there, and then we're just going to let it drop very gently out of the mold. So you can see there how we've kind of distorted it a little bit. So it could have done with another 24 hours in the mold before I demolded it, and maybe a little bit more sodium lactate in there as well, perhaps. So when you come to cut a loaf like this, you have to cut it in a specific way. There we go. I wasn't very happy with that. You're going to have to cut it in a very specific way. So you're going to need to cut, rather than the width of a bar or the depth of a bar, you're actually cutting the width of a bar on the top of the soap. So each one of these things that I'm now going to cut is going to equal 2 bars of soap. So I'm cutting the width of the soap, but not the depth. I'm going to take a little bit off the edge, I think, and then we'll get into cutting this soap. It's a little sliver off the edge. Got a nice kind of clean edge to work with. And also because I like dividing things a little bit more, and I always like a little bit of soap to test. So that's what it looks like from the edge if you were to cut it like a loaf, and you don't get the full effect of the design. So I'm just going to move this out of the way. I'm then going to slide this across to where I want my first bar to start, which is about, I think, 3.5 centimeters, 4 centimeters, something like that. So I get our first one cut here, and we'll take that one off. Slide this through. So we get these ones cut, and then I'll show you exactly how you need to get the best out of your bars of soap. So where we have the top of the soap is revealing basically what the design is going to be. So we want to use the top of the soap as technically the front of the soap. So what you need to do is you're going to need to stand it up onto one edge or the other, and you're then going to turn it 90 degrees. So you're cutting through the soap. So that's the way it was on the, you're going to turn it that way, and you're going to cut through the soap that way. So let's just pop the depth of the soap that I want. So these are then going to create the bars. So you see how it went from the top, we flipped it up and turned it 90 degrees. I'm going to slide that through, and if we look inside, we have not a very good peacock swirl, but you can see where that's going to be really kind of starting and working through. So I needed to let the trace thicken, I needed to let the soap thicken up a little bit, and I needed a bigger tool to get these beautiful striations through. So again, if that's the way that it was for the loaf, you're going to flip it up onto the end and turn it 90 degrees, up that way, turn it that way, and then we're going to cut our next one. And voila, we're getting a bit more through them. I still think we can do better. I'll pop some music on and you can watch the next couple of bars being cut. So let's get our final little sliver off the end of this one here, and then I'll show you the final bars. Now, I've shown you this video as a kind of you're going to get different effects and you're going to do different things with these. Is this the best Peacock Swirl example? Not at all. Is this an example of a fantastic soap? No, but I'm still showing it to you because sometimes it's worthwhile going through these things and learning from it and being proud of what you've achieved on one thing and then being able to take that forward into your next soaping. So never be ashamed of what you do, always be proud of what you've done and give it a real go. So that's the Peacock Swirl using dividers. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me grow and allows me to make more videos and tutorials for all of you. When you subscribe, don't forget to click the bell icon if you'd like to get notified when a new video is uploaded. And thanks a lot, Soapsters. I'll see you again next time.